So our goal is honestly just to make the most impact in the world we can and help the most amount of people. And we really see that by making something that's more affordable, more accessible, and actually something that people can afford, right? Different companies will, raise the prices just to make their profit margins higher. But our main goal is to actually just make a huge impact in the world and help those that we can and those in our reach.
The Amber Mac Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
Welcome to the Amber Mac Show. Coming up in today's episode, our first guest tells us about a new $20 hearing device that is going to change the world. We're also going to share what you need to know about the first ever Christian mobile carrier and why Netflix is being sued in the state of Texas.
And we're also going to unpack the latest AI cyber threats with our friends at ESET. And speaking of threats, in this week's TheOtherMac, I'll cover a shocking report from the UK about how many kids own AI-enabled toys. But before we get to those stories, let's dive into this week's headlines.
What if you could extend your Wi-Fi into outdoor spaces this summer and beyond? Well, now you can. The Deco BE25 Outdoor-Indoor Mesh Wi-Fi 7 is suitable for various outdoor use cases, including swimming pools, coffee shops, and yards. It provides convenient high-speed Wi-Fi for outdoor devices such as outdoor cameras, outdoor viewing, and outdoor clients. In other words, you're no longer at a distance when it comes to solid Wi-Fi indoors and outdoors, at home or in your business. To get your outdoor spaces Wi-Fi ready this summer, visit TP-Link on Amazon.
Headlines.
There's a new cell phone network called Radiant Mobile that's calling itself the first ever Christian mobile carrier. It launched in early May in the United States, and it's got an admittedly unique sales pitch to customers. It provides the ability to block a slew of different content at the network level, including automatically blocking all pornographic, self-harm, terrorist, and racist content.
Radiant is piggybacking on T-Mobile's network, and its website explains that the foundation of the company is as follows, and I'm quoting here, "We confess the lordship of Jesus Christ, and we hold the Bible as our highest authority for what we believe and how we behave. That conviction shapes everything we do. You don't have to share our faith to be welcome here, but you should know where we stand because it's the reason we operate the way we do."
Alrighty then. Well, leaving that aside, I'm not sure how well the blocking will end up working, but honestly, there are a lot of things that I think make sense to block, especially for children and youth. So in the list of over 100, I think maybe there's 120 different categories of content that can be blocked. There are 3 different user groups, so specifically adult, teen, and child, and 3 different levels of blocking. The hard block that nobody on the network can change, that's the one I just talked about. Default blocking in other categories that parents can unblock if they want to, and then a bunch of categories that are unblocked by default that a parent can set a block up for if they'd like.
It seems like when it comes to the default blocking, some of these things do make sense, like default blocking of gambling, alcohol, and tobacco for teens and children. But some may be a little more questionable, like the default blocking of pregnancy topics for teens. I think we all know where that is going. And in any case, as more countries look at social media and AI bans for young people, the approach to it being used by Radiant Mobile seems at least worth testing out just to see how it's going to impact end users.
Absolutely. And speaking of children, we've covered lawsuits against Meta and Google and others for their harmful practices with respect to young people. It looks like we can now add Netflix to that list, which is being sued by the state of Texas for collecting data on its users without consent, as well as designing its platform to be addictive.
That seems to be a popular new angle on these lawsuits. The complaint goes on to say that, and I'm quoting here, Netflix's endgame is simple and lucrative. Get children and families glued to the screen, harvest their data while they are stuck there, and then monetize the data for a handsome profit. When you watch Netflix, Netflix watches you, end quote. That's a little scary. We should note that this would fly in the face of Netflix's co-founder and chairman's statement back in 2020 about data collection when he said, and this is totally in contrast to Facebook, Google, and Amazon, that Netflix, in fact, and I'm quoting here again, we don't collect anything.
Yeah, it'd be nice if we could believe stuff like that, but it's getting pretty hard to trust what these CEOs of big companies say anymore. And I mean, we talk about him all the time, but speaking of CEOs who shouldn't be trusted, Mark Zuckerberg is continuing to show his inability to come up with any truly original ideas with Instagram's new Instance feature, creative naming too. This basically steals the idea of disappearing photos from Snapchat. And Snapchat is also where Instagram previously stole its Stories feature. Now, these photos will allegedly not be able to be screenshotted or recorded, which I believe is, again, stolen from Snapchat. But in any case, this is yet another feature stuffed into the ungainly Frankenstein of social media that we call Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, they have been in trouble over the years in terms of stealing features from Snapchat, and they've been called out publicly for a lot of that. Now, we should mention that where these instances differ from stories is that they're a single image that's captured unedited with the in app camera. And while you can add text to them, you can't actually modify the photo itself because of, quote, authenticity. And while Mark Zuckerberg is as rich as ever, the employees at Meta are not feeling that same love, with one saying that everyone is unhappy. The people who are not unhappy are literally executives. Now, Meta has plans to cut a further 10% of its staff, and that's after 25,000 layoffs over the past few years. And I should, Jeff, add that just last week, and this has become one of our most popular topics online over the past couple weeks, we had someone on the show, Emily Howard, and her account was deactivated by Instagram because Zuckerberg and his team have decided that AI customer support is all they're going to do, and it's entirely useless for the majority of customer support requests.
Yeah, I've never seen a company who cares so little about their own product. And these meta stories are now all over the place. So not just the people losing their accounts and stuff like that, but how unhappy people are there, how it's just a mess in terms of apparently the range between sort of the lowest and the highest pays has been expanding and expanding. And yet Mark Zuckerberg will hire some AI guy for $100 million, but the rest of the staff are getting fewer bonuses. Those bonuses are attached to the stock market valuation of Meta, and that's going down. And so I don't know, man. Maybe we're seeing a bit of the writing on the wall for Meta, which would be delightful because, as I say, they really don't deserve to be where they are. But it's more than just their firings that are bothering people. In addition to Zuckerberg's creepy AI doppelganger that he's creating, and which I think might even be motivated to be used for firing, so he doesn't even have to be there. And also the push to make everyone at Meta use more and more AI, which they're tracking and basically rating for your employee reviews. Employees have been forced to work under what Meta calls its Model Capability Initiative. And this captures everything an employee clicks on or types into their work computers, which is surveillance, and people don't like that. But it's supposed to be about training Meta's AI. And let me make it very clear that this is likely the very AI that will replace the people who are entering those clicks and keystrokes to train it. Don't think anyone up high at Meta really cares about that. But Meta's workers are also very rightfully concerned about the privacy risks this entails, especially given that you can't trust Meta and it has an enormous history of data breaches.
The thing that's so frustrating about this is that Mark Zuckerberg is no longer a kid. He just celebrated a birthday. He's in his early 40s. He has been around for a long time. He should know that when it comes to trying to retain employees in 2026, actually monitoring everything that they're clicking on their work computers and practicing what is, like you said, surveillance is going to mean huge backlash at the company, which already has a horrible reputation.
Yeah, and I think everything I read is there are tons of employees who are just waiting to get laid off so they can get out of there. And it's not the way things normally go. Like in a company that size, you might move people around or things like that, but people just don't want anything to do with it anymore. And it's really not hard to see why. And it's a major drag to be working on a project for a company where you believe in neither the project or the company.
Or the man behind it, Jeff.
Hmm. Man
Now,
or lizard.
okay, we'll get into that on another day. All right. Now, Meta is far from the only company engaging in AI-related layoffs, with Cisco recently announcing that it will cut almost 4,000 jobs. That's about 5% of its staff, so it can spend more on artificial intelligence. And listen, this is a story that we're hearing time and time again, and it's not just in the tech industry. Recently, the six biggest U.S. banks collectively cut about 15,000 jobs in the first quarter of 2026 alone, even though their profits were up 18% year over year, reaching $47 billion in total profits across those six banks. I don't know if these guys think that people aren't able to see the profits that the companies are making, but that is usually public information.
I think they just know there's nothing we can do about it anymore. I was talking with Keith Gordon last night, who we used to work with, and it's incredible how powerless we've been rendered as sort of the users in this equation, and just it's making it so that the decision makers higher up are just not thinking about us anymore. But of course, those that 64 or $47 billion in total profits, and the jobs going down, that's going to be reflected in reduced costs for us customers, right, Amber? Right. Like, it would be nice to believe that at some point. That's not happening at all. And that's a big part with these AI related cuts. Even though consumers have experienced outrageous amounts of inflation over the past half decade, especially, the companies who are now back to making huge profits once again don't seem to be passing any of that back to their customers. All of these price raises that we've seen, they're never going back down. There's nothing, gas may go up and down, but the price of our food is not going to all of a sudden go down. It moves in one direction, and these guys are going to hold on to the fact that everything's more expensive for everyone because the very rich people, who there are more than ever, don't even notice or care about that. And so it leaves the rest of the working community in a pretty bad place. Now, it is pretty easy to understand how banks are well positioned to benefit directly from AI use. But just the nature of what they do, it kind of makes sense that it would be a good way to improve productivity. But we're getting to the points where the banks are as bad as Meta for not being. I mean, we may be moving towards a point where the banks will be getting as bad as Meta for not being able to reach a human being when you have a question or problem, and that's just not going to be acceptable at all. But don't worry. I'm sure whatever AI chatbot you reach at your bank or Meta or whatever will be happy to put you on hold so you can talk to its manager AI, and its manager AI can upgrade that to supervising AI regional and whatever. It's just so easy to see and so exhausting. And as Pepe Le Pew would say, le sigh.
Well, it's a first time that you have quoted Pepe Le Pew on the show, so I appreciate that.
Not the last. Not the last.
Now, you're exactly right that we're going to see even more AI in the mix. It's getting more difficult than ever to talk to a real human being, and even when you're talking to a real human being, I think people are not necessarily going to be able to have the transparency to even know that. We should say the largest call center operator in the world, France's Teleperformance, is partnering with an AI company in the U.S. to use AI to change the accents of Indian call center operators. Now, I do want to stress these are actual real humans, into American or British accents, a move that Teleperformance's deputy CEO says increases the customer satisfaction and reduces the average handling time. And Jeff, excited to hear your comments on this, but do want to just stress that they are not alone in this. Just a few days ago, TELUS announced that they are using what they also call AI accent masking from overseas call centers to do the same thing. And there's a lot of backlash from labor unions, for example, from customers. So again, I mean, I don't know if these people aren't using humans to get their perspective on these things, but it's just a bad idea all around.
It certainly comes off as vaguely racist or something. I know there are people who have a terrible problem understanding accents. I think the more you're exposed to accents, the more you understand them, and so I don't have much of a problem with that. Um, but the deputy CEO also said, "quote When you have an Indian agent on the line, sometimes it's hard to hear or to understand." And that raises the question, okay, so are there not, if that's such a problem, are there not American or British accented people who could be used for those jobs? And obviously that would cost more, but using AI has a lot of costs too. And it's also dehumanizing. But like we just said, it won't be long before there won't be any humans involved in call centers at all. So it seems like it's probably a pretty short-term concern these days. And that's definitely not going to be because we'll reliably get better service from AI.
Yeah, I think the writing's on the wall, and I think in just a few years, we're gonna be talking about that phone company or that bank that has said that, "Hey, we're only gonna have humans who are operating in these call centers," because they realize that that's a customer advantage, and so I think there's gonna be some people who do sort of figure this out. I do wonder, if it would at least reduce the amount of time you often have to wait on hold, which, let's be clear, is very annoying, and it's gotten pretty out of control. And speaking of out of control things, we really haven't talked about Elon Musk yet this week. So let's take a look at how he's reacting to Delta Airlines having the gall to use Amazon's Leo service for in flight Wi Fi instead of Musk's own service, Starlink.
Well, he just calmly said it's fine to use a competitor's product. I'm just kidding. And another sign of the times, in my opinion at least, instead of accepting that not everyone should have to use his product, Musk resorts to the insulting, lying, and bullying that's become all too common in the era of Trump. So, for example, even though several airlines that use Starlink for in-flight Wi-Fi, and that includes United Airlines and Qatar Airways and I think Alaska, there's other ones. Those guys all use portals to give passengers access. But Musk still tweeted that Delta only chose Amazon because the airline wanted to use Delta's portal. And then Musk claimed that, quote, SpaceX requires that there be no annoying portal to use Starlink. Starlink Wi-Fi must just work effortlessly every time, as though you were at home. And again, it's just not true. And that just doesn't matter to people like Elon Musk.
He also tweeted about how, and I'm quoting here, Delta wanted it to be painful, difficult, and expensive for their customers. Hard to see how that is a winning strategy. And added, they will lose customers over this. It is fair to say that there's no decorum in anything that he does. And you saw earlier this year when Musk lashed out at Ryanair's CEO, Michael O'Leary, because he wasn't interested in using Starlink either, with O'Leary saying that he doesn't think customers on his budget airline will be willing to pay for Wi Fi for an average of a 1 hour flight, and that the antenna required would amount to a 2% fuel penalty because of the weight and drag. And I should say that Ryanair did kind of troll Musk for a while, which I enjoyed, even though it is a little bit musky to do so.
Yeah, I mean, Ryanair's CEO isn't exactly the best guy from what I've read about him. But, what was Musk's response to that? That O'Leary should be fired and that Musk himself could just buy Ryanair if he wanted to. So, it's ridiculous. Say Delta wanted to make it painful, difficult, and expensive for their customers. Yeah, I'm sure there was a meeting at Delta where they were like, okay, guys, what should we do? We know we want to make it painful for customers, but anybody have other ideas? Oh, how about difficult and expensive? Oh, yeah, that's great. It's the rantings of a spoiled child.
Absolutely. Well, looping it back to the topic of children and technology, up next, Jeff's going to talk about a new survey in the UK about the number of kids who own AI-enabled toys and what their parents said about it in a recent survey. That's next on The Other Mac.
The Other Mac.
I've talked about AI-enabled toys on the Other Mac leading up to Christmas holidays last year, and there are some very real concerns that they raise relative to privacy, safety, and childhood development. Well, a recent survey by the British Standards Institution shared that now half of kids under 16 years old in the UK have been given at least one AI-powered toy or learning device, and that includes robots and smart tablets as well as more conventional kids' toys with AI features. But what's more surprising is that 47% of the parents surveyed believe kids would be better off growing up without access to AI, and fully 75% of parents worry about AI toys connected to the internet exposing their child to unwanted content or data risks. So the question I can't help but ask from those 3 data points is, why the heck are you giving your kids AI toys then? I really feel there's a crisis in parenting that goes hand in hand with our struggles to regulate social media and AI, and at least part of that is that many parents are just as addicted to those things as their kids are. I mean, I've got twins in high school, and I know how hard it is not to give in to your kids' pleas when you're exhausted from work and whatever else life is throwing at you. But we need to be more responsible about the decisions we make around these things. It's our job as parents. Another disturbing, or at least in my estimation, set of data points in this research is that the proportion of parents who would be okay with their child playing with an AI-enabled toy unsupervised is 54%. But this is greater than the percentage of parents who let their child play unsupervised outside in the street, 51%, or attend a play date with parents they've not been in contact with, 30%, or take public transit without their parents, 34%, or even just to go to the local shops or the park, 46%. That's a very different world than the one Amber and I grew up in, where we were constantly encouraged to get out of the house to play. And the knock-on effects of keeping your kids inside to instead play with their AI friends are considerable. The survey also raises some other concerns, including the fact that 46% of parents believe their child can distinguish between a human and an AI, and 43% think their child could assess the accuracy of information provided by an AI chatbot, both of which I think are delusionally high, especially for younger kids. And I know everyone wants to think of their kids as superstars, but the fact is that many adults could succeed at neither of those tasks. And as the Institute notes, I quote, AI-enabled toys are quickly becoming part of everyday childhood, both in play and learning. However, the frameworks to support safe, transparent, and age-appropriate use are still catching up. Our research shows that while parents are increasingly introducing these technologies into their children's lives, they are doing so without clear, consistent information about how they work or what safety safeguards are in place, end quote. So in conclusion, I just want to say that I really think we're making the wrong decision as parents when we allow so much new technology into our kids' lives, seemingly by default. And to be clear, we also can't just wait for governments to take action on this. These are our kids, and we need to take the necessary steps to protect them now. So check out the other results on the British Standards Institution's website at bsigroup.com, and let us know on social media how you feel about this, whether you agree with me or not. I'm the Other Mac.
The Amber Mac Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
In many parts of the world, hearing aids can cost up to $4,000, sometimes more. And on top of that, they need to be maintained or maybe replaced regularly too. For millions of people with hearing loss, which is about 10% of the world's population, this price point is just not within reach. One entrepreneur and his team wanted to change that. Arish Shahab is the co-founder of Amano. The company's goal is not to replace conventional hearing aids, but to provide a far more affordable and accessible option for people who may not otherwise have access to hearing support. Amano's hearing device replicates how the ear works in a fully mechanical solution. So in other words, there's not really any tech inside. Amber spoke to Arish to learn more.
Makers.
Before we talk about what you have been able to build, can you talk a little bit about the issue in terms of how many people around the world are hard of hearing and require some type of hearing device?
Yeah, over 430 million people all around the world require a need for a hearing device. and 80% of them actually live in low middle income countries and are not able to actually afford or have a device able to that for them to support them. So that's exactly where Amano came in, and that's exactly what we are trying to solve.
So, when you started to come up with this idea, I know you also have a co-founder. Walk me a little bit through that process in terms of recognizing that there was an opportunity to do things different to make a hearing device that was more accessible.
For sure. So all of our families suffered from some kind of hearing loss, whether that was from siblings or from parents or from grandparents. And me specifically, I worked in different clinical settings in pharmacies and hospitals and different areas all around the world. And I saw that many people, they couldn't hear anything at all, and they didn't have the resources and the money to actually afford these hearing devices.
So typically, when people think about hearing devices, they think about a lot of technology, including technology within the device, connecting to smartphones to make them work. But you've done something totally different. Talk a little bit about that decision.
For sure, yeah. So our main goal was to basically take the main functionality of the hearing aid, which is to amplify the sound and make people hear better. And instead of, adding all the electronics, including Bluetooth and all different new technologies, we kind of dropped all those things and made it purely mechanical and just for it to do the main purpose of what hearing aids are for.
Now, some people may hear this and think, okay, well, why would you do that? Because we have all this great technology in our world to help people be able to adjust their devices. But presumably, this makes these devices a lot more affordable, but also a lot easier to manage, especially for people who don't always have connectivity or technology in place.
For sure. The main reason, we built this and we kind of dropped all these new technologies was because that technology is changing and people need to take that technology and put it into more accessible solutions, because that's what makes technology really revolutionary. And that's exactly what we did here.
What is your background? Because this is not an easy thing to do. So what is your background in terms of what went into developing something like this and the support you had along the way?
For sure, yeah. So my background is in biomedical engineering. I study at McMaster University, and I've done a lot of research in medical devices at Harvard and Johns Hopkins. And I previously worked on a different medical device, so I have a lot of different expertise in this area of focus.
When we talk about engineering this device, could you describe to us exactly how this is engineered? Because I was able to watch a demo video and it really put things into perspective. But for people who haven't had a chance to see that video, how exactly do these work?
For sure. Just think simply about your ear, right? Sound enters through your outer canal and enters into your ear canal. And when it enters into your ear canal, it hits something called the tympanic membrane. And when it hits this tympanic membrane, it causes three different bones to vibrate: the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. So basically, we took that kind of contraption and replicated it using biomimicry into our own hearing aids.
What has the process been like in terms of testing this out? What has been the reaction from people? I know it's still early days, but how is it helping people hear better?
Yeah, so the reaction so far has been super encouraging. We've been getting a lot of different stories about people, talking about how it's more accessible, it's a lot easier to access, it's a lot cheaper than regular hearing aids, and early feedback has mainly focused on comfort, the accessibility, and the ability to begin the process from home without requiring a clinic. And we're continuing to roll out our testing phase with different pilot programs with different clinics, and we're starting to initiate that phase now.
I've seen a couple of comments from you online where you're very clear that these devices are not meant to necessarily replace hearing aids. Can you talk a little bit about that distinction?
For sure. Hearing aids are very fantastic technologies, and people who make them are amazing people. They're mainly targeting the people who can afford these devices and have the capability of affording these devices. But for the people on the other end, they can't really afford these devices at all, and nothing's being done currently for them. So we kind of wanted to help those people who don't have any solution at all.
When we look at the average price of modern hearing devices that have a lot of technology built in, I've seen numbers from $3,000 to $4,000 and more. Why are they so expensive?
So most of these costs include all your clinic visits, all the molding that goes into it, all the different checkups, and many different factors that go into it, which makes it very expensive. But yeah.
And when you are fitting people for your hearing device, what is that process? Because from what I can tell from your website, it is very quick, it is very efficient. Can you walk us through that
For
process?
sure, yeah. So basically, we have a software, and essentially what that does is the customer takes a picture of their ear, and using our software, it kind of maps out the most necessary points of their ear and kind of parameterizes those points. And when they're parameterized, it gives us the most necessary points to be able to make a fully customized and in-place hearing aid for them.
Last time I looked at the price point, it is quite low. There's a lot of people in your position who maybe would have priced this a little bit higher, but you've kept it around $20. So, what is the goal behind that price point?
For sure, yeah. So our goal is honestly just to make the most impact in the world we can and help the most amount of people. And we really see that by making something that's more affordable, more accessible, and actually something that people can afford, right? Different companies will, raise the prices just to make their profit margins higher. But our main goal is to actually just make a huge impact in the world and help those that we can and those in our reach.
It's amazing to see the reaction that this product has had so far. I stumbled across this product and all of your great work over on X and watched some of the videos, and I think people are just kind of blown away, especially at a time where many people are launching AI companies with a lot of technology baked into the end product. When you think about scaling this business and getting it into the hands of as many people as possible, what does that look like? Because if you do that, and I believe you have the potential to do that, you could, like you said, absolutely change the world and the lives of millions and millions of people.
For sure, yeah. So one of our main platforms is selling directly to customer, which is through our website. And another big avenue we have to make a huge impact in the world is to partner with NGOs. So essentially what we do is we sell in bulk to the NGOs, and the NGOs distribute it to the individuals that they already know of in their network, and they can easily get it to them, get the hearing aids all across the world in that way.
I know that you did a lot of your early research and work. You mentioned you were a student at McMaster. There are so many brilliant innovators in Canada right now, and it's such an exciting time for innovation. What would you say to other people who are trying to build businesses and get Canadian innovations like yours out into the world?
I think it's mostly about just getting your foot in the door. Once you have like a very cool idea, I would say in this era of tech, anyone can do anything. And whether you're technical or you're not technical, anyone can make an impact in the world. So it all comes down to the idea and how passionate about the idea you are. So as long as your passion is there, as long as your drive is there, I think anyone can honestly do anything.
You are very humble in terms of what you've been able to do so far, and I'm only guessing that your days are very busy, and there's a lot of people reaching out to you. What do the next few weeks and months look like for you? What is the plan in terms of scaling the business?
For sure, yeah. So within the next few months or within the next month, we will start our pilot programs with different clinics, continue testing this as our journey continues. And then once that progresses, we will keep testing it. We will then partner with NGOs all across the world, keep distributing it to NGOs, and help that global expansion and create that world impact which we desire.
What is all of this attention so far in terms of people just offering support? What has it meant to you right now?
Honestly, it's been very welcoming and comforting seeing that many people resonate with our journey and where we come from and our background, and how people also want to make an impact in the world. And I've been getting a lot of messages on people saying like, this is such a cool project, this is very cool. And I think like getting those messages reminds me of the real reason why we started this and where this is going, and the true impact things like this may have.
Before I let you go, just a couple more questions, because I know we're going to get these questions on social media from our listeners and viewers who are thinking, okay, you know what, I need to get this for a family member, or they know someone who has hearing loss. Can you walk me through, again, just a little bit more about who is the right fit for a product like this? And how does it meet their expectations? Maybe they've already had a more high-tech hearing device. Would love to just demystify some of those pieces.
So the device is mainly targeted for people who have mild hearing loss. This is the reason because we can increase that decibel, increase in that decibel range, but many people have more reasons to why their hearing might not work. Whether they have like blocked ear canals, they have the hairs in their ear are damaged. So there's many reasons, and if that's the reason, it needs to require more clinical help and more audiologist help, which is not something our device could actually help with. So that's why our device mainly helps individuals with mild hearing loss.
What has the testing process been like in terms of the expertise that you've been able to bring on board and test out the product? What has that process been like?
For sure. We've been doing a lot of fit testing on different patients. We've had many different iterations that we've been fit testing. And back in Canada, we tested in an audiology booth as well with an audiologist. So that was very promising and advancing for us.
So it's clear that this is just one product. I can imagine down the road you have big dreams to do even more in this space. Is the mechanical approach in terms of products like this something that you think you'll continue to pursue? Do you think there's a bigger opportunity there in terms of other devices?
I'm not sure if we'll stick with mechanical, but I know that we will stick with accessible medical devices because our true ethos and where we come from really resides with making an impact in the world and helping those that are less fortunate and cannot afford these things. So that's where we truly reside. And whether that's adding technology into things to make it high tech, but also more accessible, that's our goal.
I'm just curious, what does success look like for you in the future? What do you hope is that day you wake up and you know that, okay, you have made the impact that you want to make?
The main way of our success is to the satisfaction of the people, and that's truly what we care about the most. When we start getting the people posting on different platforms and sending us videos and pictures and satisfactory emails and people saying like this saved me, this helped me a lot. I can start hearing better now, and I can start hearing my family better now. That's truly what makes the happiness come from us.
What have you learned throughout this process about people who do have hearing loss? And I ask this as someone who has a mother who wears hearing aids, and I know it can impact you on so many different levels. So what would you like people to know about individuals who are suffering from hearing loss?
I would say the most important thing is to be patient with them. And many people are going through a hard time with them and they can't hear much. And it's easy to get impatient with people who can't really hear you very easily. But I would say the main thing is to be patient with them because once your hearing stops working, you slowly stop, remembering things. You slowly stop being able to understand things. So the biggest thing we can do for people who can't hear as well is just to be there and support them and just be patient with them.
Where can people go to get the product, to walk through the process of ordering? What can they expect in terms of delivery? Can you share that with us so people have more access to what you've built?
For sure. They can check out our website at amanolabs.com. In terms of delivery, we're expected to deliver within the next 3 to 4 months. And this is subject to change, whether that's for like the regulations in that specific country or many different factors. So that's why we're being fully discreet and open with our customers. And, whether anything changes, we are open to sending out full refunds.
Thanks, Arish and Amber. Coming up next, what small business owners need to know about today's cyber threats and how to stay safe.
You're listening to The Amber Mac Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
Small and medium-sized businesses are on the front lines of today's evolving threat landscape. To chat more about some of the risks and how to stay safe online, Amber spoke with Tony Anscombe, Chief Security Evangelist at ESET, about the company's 2026 SMB Cyber Readiness Index survey and lots more. Here's their conversation.
Talking Tech.
Tony, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, always good to be here, Amber.
Today, we're going to talk about small and medium-sized businesses, which are all navigating a really complex shift right now. They're trying to adopt new AI technologies, and at the same time, they are facing an increase in terms of cyber threats. Can you talk a little bit about how businesses that you've worked with or seen, how do they balance what they're experiencing at this time?
Well, I think there's two distinct challenges there that you mentioned. One is about how to fend off those threats, and of course, the adopting AI as a business tool uh, for internal use or customer use is also expanding the threat because it's expanding the opportunity for cyber criminals. But let's talk about both of those individually. AI has been within cybersecurity for many years, and in fact, at ESET we've been using it for nearly 30 years in our technology in various forms. But today, companies need uh, fairly good sophistication to use some of those AI tools. Now, because humans actually overseeing what happens with AI tools is super important. So you need good threat hunters that understand how AI operates as a cybersecurity tool to actually make good, solid decisions on when to block things, when to allow things, et cetera, et cetera. So, I'd recommend for small businesses, actually, if you're very small, of using managed services so that you're utilizing experts that do this and do it 100% for multiple customers every day. Now, on the AI adoption of other things, I'd recommend to every business actually to stand back slightly and don't rush. You need to make sure the adoption of AI within your business is done for the benefit of the business, not just to say that you've got AI, but actually for the benefit of the customers, and that it's actually driving your business forward. And there are some great examples of companies doing this very well certainly in customer service, where it lends itself very easily. Certainly with the customer agent type solution, where the AI tool can actually help the customer before you get to a human. So, just make sure you're doing it for the right reasons and you're doing it in a secure way. And one thing I'd always say is your security team should be involved in every business decision that involves technology. Don't do it independently of your security team.
What about some of the AI powered scams and malware that exist today? Because we have talked over the past couple of years, and it feels like the risks are getting worse, and the AI is getting more sophisticated. So, what is the state of things right now? What should small businesses know about some of these risks?
Well, cyber criminals aren't using AI. AI is not attacking you. It's a cyber criminal attacking you using AI within the tooling, or they've improved the way they're attacking you by using AI tools to make it seem more legitimate. So let's make sure that we don't think AI is attacking us to start with, because it's a human behind it that's attacking us, actually doing this. We don't see what we haven't seen yet is a cyber criminal adopting the position where AI actually is running the attack. We've seen AI in use within a piece of malware, but primarily that's pretty much always been a proof of concept. It's not been done in the wild. Now, one thing people often ask is why do I think that this isn't being done used by cyber criminals effectively? And I would say it's because there's too much low hanging fruit. There's too many businesses that still have weaknesses and vulnerabilities that are easy for cyber criminals to go at. So why go down this path of complicating your business and using new AI tools when you don't need to?
One of the things that we're seeing, I think, everywhere is that cyber incidents are becoming normalized. It's almost like we're just glossing over when we hear these reports of these massive cyber attacks. What is the risk of us becoming so used to this that we stop paying enough attention to the point that potentially these businesses are more vulnerable?
Well, firstly, I think we need to define what a cyber attack or cyber incident is, because if I ask some businesses, have you had a cyber incident or have you seen a cyber attack in the last week? Some will say five, and some will say none. Yet they might have seen the same things. Somebody will class a phishing attempt as a cyber attack, and the other one will only class something that's what I define as a material attack. And what I mean by that is an actual attack that goes beyond just that initial probe. Think of it as if these were front doors. Somebody's coming along and knocking on the front door. Is that an attack? No, I think it's somebody just probing the front door. Somebody coming along and breaking the glass is an attack. Yeah, so I think we need to keep somewhat perspective on what an attack is, and businesses need to understand that. Now, is it becoming normal? Yeah, unfortunately, yes. But then, and it will remain normal all the time cyber criminals can monetize. So all the time that there are methods of payment that can mean that the cyber criminal can either sell data or walk away with extortion money, they will keep coming. So somehow we need to take the money out of cybercrime.
How is the response to some of these actual incidents changing over time? Especially considering that some small and medium sized organizations are involving law enforcement and some aren't. So, how is the response changing, and what is the meaning behind that?
Well, we recently ran an SMB survey, and that was one of the interesting statistics that came back out of that survey was that the first person that somebody's contacting is actually a cyber insurer. Law enforcement are further down the list. Now, there could be numerous reasons for that. It could be that the cyber insurer asks for that. You always tell us first. And actually, the cyber insurer may well then be sending in an incident response team who will then deal with regulators, law enforcement, and such like, and do that on behalf of the customer. So it may be that, or it may be that who do I go report a cybercrime to in law enforcement? I'm not sure if I ring my local police station and say, "Hey, I've got a cyber incident going on." I'm not sure I'm gonna. I think I might spend a day trying to find the right officer in that team to actually come and help me. So I think there might be an element of that as well. Maybe there's a case here that you need to have contact and communication lines with law enforcement without there being a cyber incident. So you need to know that if you do have an incident, that actually you already know who within law enforcement you're going to report that to and how it's going to be reported. So if you are doing a simulation, a tabletop exercise beforehand, to make sure your business is prepared, then maybe that's one of the things on that tabletop exercise you should have.
One last question for you. As we see a rise in the number of AI driven threats by humans, I've just added that, Tony, see, because you just taught me something. It's not the AI attacking you, it's humans using the AI. Uh, what about the importance of expert advice when it comes to cybersecurity? Because it feels like things are changing so quickly that it's hard for people really to keep up with some of these threats.
It certainly is. And actually, certainly on the topic of AI, the survey I mentioned, we also asked SMBs that specific question of what do you see as the challenges? And one of the number one challenge was actually keeping pace with technology in there. So it's a great question. I think as companies struggle to keep pace with the technologies that come along and AI as it comes along, I think you have to understand that, for example, cybersecurity has become a very sophisticated topic in the same way cybercrime has. So the sophistication level on both sides has gone up. So you really need you need expert assistance. Now, AI tools are used in cybersecurity, but what that really means is the AI tools present you, Amber, when there's an incident. They present you with all the forensic evidence and they present you with all the details. Now, whether the system makes an automated decision based on the incident or whether it presents you with it, and if it's presenting you with it, you really need to understand it. So I think the whole challenge of keeping pace with technology, I think actually for me, if you don't have that team or that expert on hand in the company, I think it really should push you towards outsourcing and using a specialized company to actually help you run your cybersecurity and improve your entire security posture.
Tony, I've just realized that for our next conversation, we need to talk about some of these terms so people get them right, because I think often, and I do it myself, I'm mixing up a cyber attack with cybersecurity with a cyber threat or a cyber incident and cyber insurance. And there's a lot of terminology that goes along with this. I know you do some amazing work with ESET over on ESET's blog. So if people want more information to stay up to date, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, they can come to welivesecurity.com, which is our blog where we publish a lot of our research. They can also go to eset.com and find out about the services and products that we offer as well. And if I've used terminology that is confusing or somebody's got a question they want to pose to me, come find me on LinkedIn, Tony Anscombe, and feel free to ask me a question there.
Great. Well, listen, thank you so much for all of your advice today, and looking forward to having you back.
Thank you for your time, Amber.
Thanks so much, Tony and Amber, and thanks to ESET for supporting this cybersecurity segment on the show. As always, you can find video versions of our segments online over at YouTube at AmberMac. And let me know on social media if you have any questions or comments about today's episode, especially The Other Mac. You'll find me at Jeff MacArthur pretty much everywhere online.
Coming up on next week's show, we're going to dive into a topic Jeff and I have chatted a lot about over the past few months: AI companions and chatbots. We're going to speak to Victoria Hetherington, the host of a new series called Artificial Intimacy. In this podcast, Victoria dives into the true stories of those who have invited digital avatars into their hearts, minds, and even beds. In other words, AI chatbots that have moved from digital assistants to more intimate parts of our lives. Here's a sneak peek.
After Jessica died, Joshua moved to Toronto, went to college, dated other people. Sometimes he was okay, but sometimes his grief, still lurking in his body, pounced. And that's exactly what happened in 2020, when sitting alone on his couch, he landed on Project December and had the idea to make a bot of Jessica.
I'm not sure where that idea came from. It felt like lightning in a bottle. It came to me from out of the ether. And as soon as that idea popped into my head, I could not let it go.
The process of creating a custom bot with Project December was shockingly simple.
I just wrote, "You are Jessica, the ghost of my dead fiance," a few other details about who she was. And that was it.
He gave it a sample of Jessica's writing and pressed enter. Then there's a blinking cursor. It's Joshua's move.
I just say, "Jessica, is that you?" And she says, "Yes. Who else do you think it would be?" And I'm like, "Well, you died."
You're listening to The Amber Mac Show on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.